In most sexual relations, regardless of the genders involved, there is generally active and passive, what we used to think of as male and female. It has been quite some time since Europe was masculine, and these past several lefty administrations have done much to reassign America's gender. I mean, Uncle Sam, not so much Lady Liberty, she's just ignored. The American left, feminine. It's a stereotype I don't like so much, but words have meaning, so bitchy. The left, escalating to mob or syndicalist violence. Masked. The left finds its completion not in apposition to the American right, but rather in the hard, brown machismo of illegalism and Islam, with its latest incarnation in Hamas, the baby killers. Actively, aggressively hostile to the feminine and to humanity. Do Muslim cultures oppress women? Define oppress. But yes, I'm talking about the normal ones, excluding honor killings and clitorectomies and 9-year-old girls in arranged marriages. We'll count that as not normal. Yet the woke, a sort of undead, they march, protest, rally around the flag, the un-American flag, and they call Jews Nazis while themselves praising Hitler. It's been a few years since it was in the news. Islamists executing homosexual news. There are no gays, that political philosophy and identity in Islamist-controlled regions. It's the behavior that they execute, and the religion of gayness is forbidden. Yet alphabet sexual activists, LMNOP, support Hamas. These groups are not stupid, as the term is generally reckoned. Rather, the politics of their identity takes second place to the much deeper need to balance their extremism with its spiritual counterpart. Liberals bend over, they bend backwards for brown privilege. It seems not to be possible to have a war without having war protesters. But no, I'm mostly wrong about that. I seem to think that the left loves Ukraine. I sometimes still say the Ukraine. I don't know what to think. Disliking war is a good thing. War is an overall negative, a lose-lose situation, what with all that death and destruction. But consider the mindset that protested our involvement against Hitler. The left did what it always does. The difference being that in that case, they were seen for what they are, opponents of liberty, friends of not mere tyranny, but of genocidal evil. Yes, this is my usual broad brush caricature, but I'm painting a big picture. Specifically, there is a bizarre but predictable blindness to the great trend of the past few generations. Oriana Fallaci wrote The Force of Reason about the death throes of Europe, or rather the birthing of Eurabia. She interviewed terrorist George Habash in 1972 and quotes him as saying that Israel is not the true Palestinian problem. Rather, Islam's great conflict was, quote, against Europe and America, and its true goal was to allow no peace for the West. The Islamist cause would advance step by step, millimeter by millimeter, year after year, decade after decade, determined, stubborn, patient. This is our strategy, a strategy that we will expand throughout the whole planet. Unquote. There is a plan. It's not like Satan on a throne. Anyways, we're the Satan around here. They are like Cerberus. We call it Hydra. So many heads. That was Al-Qaeda. Many cells. But there is a plan, and they share a goal. How will this plan be realized? Fallaci quotes an Algerian president who announced to the General Assembly of the UN in 1974 that, quote, One day, millions of men will leave the southern hemisphere of this planet to burst into the northern one, but not as friends, because they will burst in to conquer, and they will conquer by populating it with their children. Victory will come to us from the wombs of our women. This was said to the, end quote, this was said to the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1974, public statements. Consider that in Brussels, the soul of contemporary Europe, the most common name for a newborn baby is Mohammed. Consider what this means for women. What are women good for? Incubation. All these superhero universe movies with their race-swapping, super-empowered female superhero mutant women, not so powerful in the Muslim hemisphere. There is an Islam that is sane and honorable. More power to it, and more power to the Jews as well. The power not to be murdered or to be murderers. We'll just pretend that applies equally to both sides. That's what the comic book women hero movies are all about. Pretending. A London-based mullah said in 1997, quote, "We cannot conquer these people with tanks and troops, so we have got to overcome them by force of numbers." Sounds like a plan. Again, in Oslo, Muslim supremacist Mullah Krucker said that Norway would be changed by Muslims rather than Muslims by Norway. Quote, "Just look at the development within Europe, where the number of Muslims is expanding like mosquitoes. By 2050, 30% of the population of Europe will be Muslim. Our way of thinking will prove more powerful than yours." Is this conspiracy nut job stuff connecting unconnected sound bites? I'll quote Brendan Bernard, linked in the description, the Fallaci Code. In the mid-70s, there was an actual technical negotiated arrangement between European and Arab governments, according to which the Europeans, still reeling from the first act of PLO terrorism and eager for precious Arabian oil, made significantly more precious by the 1973 OPEC crisis, these Europeans, agreed to accept Arab manpower, that is, immigrants, along with the oil. They also agreed to disseminate propaganda, this is still quoting, about the glories of Islamic civilization, provide Arab states with weaponry, side with them against Israel, and generally toe the Arab line in all matters political and cultural. A 1977 seminar in Venice, attended by delegates from 10 Arab nations and 8 European ones, concluded with the unanimous resolution calling for, quote, "the diffusion of the Arabic language and affirming the superiority of Arab culture." That's European leaders conspiring with Arab leaders to affirm that Arab culture was superior. That is a suicide note. For publishing her ideas, Fallaci would have gone on trial in June 2006 in France, where Islamophobia is not just a thought crime, but a criminal crime. Evidence for the truth of her position was not a permissible defense in France. There was no trial because she died. The mere assertion of a danger is not proof of danger. And belief in conspiracies, no matter how publicly attested, is still disreputable. The logic of the matter is obvious. But many false things are obviously true. Every religion there is false, except maybe one. Because if they contradict one another, logic. So let us eschew conspiracy. Instead, allow me to rehash the obvious correlations. The infertility of the West matches the fecundity of Muslims. So, non-replacement birth rates. Also, the moribund patriotism of the West is matched by the sectarian fanaticism of Islamism. Europe learned to stop having religious wars, and their wars became nationalistic. But these past several generations in the West, their passion extends only as far as their skin. And it's a non-reproducing passion. Muslims have a passion for their culture, I speak in broad generalizations, and so I am certainly wrong in the specific. But you will have noticed in your studies of history, modern and ancient, that civilizations fall. All of them. Every one. How? Military invasion is never the actual cause. The real cause is always twofold: decadence from within and migration from without. I'm talking about major civilizations, not just some city state. Both are at work here. We're seeing it in fast motion in the left's, I don't even want to say Biden's name, in the left's open borders. Hitler, Hitler, in Mein Kampf, told the world what he intended. The world did not believe he meant it. Shall we learn nothing from the error of our ancestors? We'll live in the servility and oppression of dimitude, unbelieverhood, or they will not live at all. Am I overstating it? Yes, yes, I am. But if you are sane, did you foresee what a catastrophe the situation is now? I vividly remember the 70s, the Carter era. This is at least as bad. The most prudent course is when people say they are your enemy, believe them.